Hello and welcome to Catching Up with Carter, where we recap all of your sports from around the world. We're here on 88.5 HD2 Saddleback College Radio, and I am joined by Matthew Pearce here today. He's an alumni from Saddleback, was here on the Saddleback College radio station, and introduced me to play-by-play broadcasting, which is my dream to do, and I appreciate him for everything that he's done for me, and I'm happy that he's here on the show. And Matthew, how have you been doing?
Man, I'm great. It's an absolute pleasure to be back here in the studio, especially with you, someone that I connected so well with while I was here. So I really appreciate you letting me come on and step on the mic again here at Saddleback.
Of course. And today we're talking all about all of the news that's been going around. It's been a crazy weekend going on in the NFL and the NBA, especially in NFL free agency. So we're going to take a 1-minute break, and we're going to be back with all of the NFL news. We're going to be starting off with Davante Adams. He is now a Los Angeles Ram, and of course Matthew Pearce, he is a huge Rams fan. So we're going to be talking over that here in just a minute here on Saddleback College Radio, 88.5 HD2, Catching Up with Carter. Hello and welcome back to Catching Up with Carter here on Saddleback College Radio, 88.5 HD2, and we're here with Matthew Pearce. It's me, Carter Kirchhevel, and Matthew Pearce is here back. He's an alumni here at Saddleback College Radio, and we're going to be starting off our NFL rumors and our NFL news with Davante Adams. He is traded to the Rams. He's reportedly joining the Los Angeles Rams on a 2-year, $46 million contract. Per the report, the contract comes with $26 million in guaranteed money. Adams joins a Ram team that is reportedly in talks to trade Cooper Kupp away, so he'll be gone most likely. So they got Puka Nacua, and you've got Davante Adams. And I know we saw actually today there was some news. Davante Adams is getting the number 17. So Puka Nacua, he's giving up the number 17. He's going to be wearing number 12, which he wore in college. And so, Matthew, Rams fan, what are you thinking about this?
Well, first I want to start. I got a Puka Nacua jersey, this year, and it's already vintage.
It's vintage.
It's vintage already. It's number 17, so any reseller or buyers who want to get a vintage Nacua jersey.
Hey, I might be in the market. You never know.
It's a really interesting move by the Rams, specifically because part of their problem with Kupp was not only age but also contract, and then we're coming out and giving $26 million in guaranteed money to Davante Adams per the report. So it's a really interesting move, especially when they haven't made a move for Kupp yet. Like, he's still technically rostered on the team, and even though they have said they're probably going to drop him if they don't materialize a trade before the contract in the next season starts, it's still really interesting to see how they went so aggressive on another wide receiver. But obviously, this is Les Snead and Sean McVay have time and time again proven that they can see the finer things in some players. So I think it's really interesting, and I think that with them bringing Stafford back, they think they can squeak out another Super Bowl or at least make another run like they did this year potentially.
They've already, this last year was really good for the Rams.
Yeah.
You guys had a great run, lost to the Super Bowl champions, to the Eagles. So it's not like you guys can't make it there again.
Exactly.
And in my opinion, I would go to Kupp and be like, hey, this is a year we could go, right? Let's just restructure the contract.
Yep, I would love that idea.
It's great. Restructure his contract. Those 3 receivers is stacked. That is the best receiving core in the NFL.
By far,
100%.
By far, too, especially with how they get used.
It's ridiculous because Puka Nacua is so good. He's been in the spotlight this last year and the last year before that. And Cooper Kupp's been on the sidelines a little bit more, but still been great. Both of them been great. Davante Adams, he's been struggling kind of with the teams he's been on, but at the same time, I think Matthew Stafford's really going to do well with him. That's just what I think. It's really going to be cool to see.
Yeah, I think Davante Adams has dealt with some culture issues in the Jets and the Raiders, which has probably been a piece of his struggling. But I think there's going to be a big difference when he comes to LA.
Oh, it's going to be huge.
It's going to be a massive change of pace for him, and he's going to have a lot of opportunity. And I want to say this just like before people start making mistakes come fantasy season, Puka Nacua is still most likely the wide receiver 1 in this offense.
That's the thing that I was going to say. He's definitely the wide receiver 1. The thing that I could see the offense doing, though, is using Davante as that player to get everyone open. Right?
Yeah, he's like an X factor.
He's
like
the X factor player.
let's send him long. Let's send him across the field and threatening positions, and then let's slide it underneath to Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, Jordan Whittington, who's another great player. We just signed Tutu Atwell again. I'd love to see what's his name, Robinson back
Yep.
on the team.
Demarcus
Robinson, absolute stud. I couldn't think of his name for a second. I literally spaced on it. But he came up in some of the biggest moments this last year, and it's hard to get rid of a player like that that's so ingrained in the culture.
I remember one of the stat lines. I think it was like 2 for 2 for like 2 touchdowns or something for
DeMarcus
this year.
He had a 100% game for touchdowns and receptions.
Yeah. That team is scary. That's a very scary team. It's probably the best in the NFC West. We'll talk later about the 49ers. My 49ers, just about how bad their offseason has been. It's been a struggle at the beginning of this offseason. Well, we're first going to go to a team that is not very great, and it's the Browns. And it looks like they're going to keep Myles Garrett. So Myles Garrett, he is now going to be paid an average annual value of $40 million and feature $123.5 million in guaranteed money. It's like the Browns love giving out the biggest contracts they can think of, and there is a no-trade clause. Another no-trade clause for him. I'm just feeling like the Browns are not doing anything. I don't know what they're thinking with this signing.
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at like this deal on paper right now just to try and like understand the point of view, because we already come into this offseason with Garrett saying he wants to be traded, right? And the Browns haven't made a stab at anything really great in a while now. And if Myles Garrett, happy for him, he got paid. $40 million is life-changing, obviously. 123 in guarantees is like ridiculous. It makes him one of the highest non-paid quarterbacks in NFL history.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. But some of these guys just have that different want in the game. Like, obviously it's a business, but some of these guys want to win. Like they want to get that Super Bowl.
And that's what I felt like Myles Garrett was trying to go for.
Exactly.
He could easily have jumped to a team, that's a contender. In my opinion, I was looking like the Bills, because we're going to talk about it. They released Von Miller right now.
Yep.
So I was thinking, a team like that, the Bills, or even the Eagles, looking at their contracts that they have, they could probably maybe make a splash with him. It's just, I feel bad for Garrett, because I know that this is, his agent saying this is the best for you. You got the most money you could ever get, and you're staying in the same place. There's no moving involved. But I think he could easily win a championship with another roster. He could easily win one.
Yeah, and at that, he's 29 years old, which he's kind of in the middle.
Still younger, though.
Yeah, middle of his career. He's got some time left, but I think another team would have paid him. So I just feel bad, because on one end he wants to win, but he also wants to get paid. But I think he could have done both somewhere else potentially. And there's so many questions revolving this Browns quarterback situation and what's really going to happen this next year. So it's kind of almost a dud year potentially for him and his chance at winning a Super Bowl. And then the no trade clause on top of that, it's just a smack in the face.
It is kind of a smack in the face,
especially after asking for a trade.
Especially, but at the same time, it makes sense to me. In my opinion, the agent probably went out and talked to some other teams, saw what they were going to offer, and they probably weren't going to offer what the Browns were going to offer, because Browns are, as we know, Deshaun Watson. That deal that was done was so much money that they gave him. I think it was like $280 million plus.
It was
right?
ridiculous.
So it's so much money that they like to give out, and it makes sense for him to stay. Now, going to a player that is going to stay as well is the Chargers. Going to another Los Angeles team, they're keeping Khalil Mack, and they basically have just made a deal with him. So they got a 1-year, fully guaranteed $18 million deal with him. He's an older player, definitely a little bit older than Myles Garrett. But the Chargers, they got him back, and going into another player that was released was Joey Bosa. So Joey Bosa, he was released from the Chargers. So what's your thoughts on this? Khalil Mack.
In this case, I'm not going to call him old. I'm going to call him experienced. I'm going to respect Khalil Mack in this case, because the Chargers' defense has been phenomenal in the last couple years. And I think with Ladd McConkey stepping up, they're going to have a real opportunity this next year to make a move in their conference and division, and hopefully, get that playoff spot. But it's going to be hard for them, and especially getting rid of Bosa, it's going to be a little harder. But I think this defense will be able to figure it out, and Harbaugh is a smart guy, and he'll be able to figure it out. And I really think that this Chargers team could be something to talk about come this next preseason.
Oh, yeah. Harbaugh, it's so crazy to me, because this team was projected, I think it was 6-7 wins this year. And getting 11 wins with the roster they had. Now they're going to build on this roster. There's been talk about Tyreek Hill, actually, with the Chargers, and talking about trying to get him as a receiver. He said LA is one of the spots he would like to go play. And Ladd McConkey with another player like that would be crazy.
Such
and if
a good
Harbaugh
talent.
is able to get all of these talents together, he could definitely bring a team to the playoffs again. He brought the Niners after only like a season to the playoffs with Alex Smith. He's done a great job. 11-6. I know it was a tough end of the year for Chargers fans, but I'd be hopeful. I'd be hopeful for this next season. Now, we talked about, the Bills. We talked about them releasing Von Miller just a second ago, but we're going to go into it a little bit more because I had a kind of a question for you because it's a lot of talk about where he'll go. And a lot of people were talking about going back to the Rams, but also people are saying, could this be it? Could this be him just done? Like, could he be retired? Do you think he'll be done? Or do you think he's going to stay for one more year or a few more years?
You know what? Let's see how old he is because he's had a very successful career.
Yeah, he has.
And
he won Super Bowl MVP, right? During Super Bowl 50, I believe, right? Or no, maybe not Super Bowl MVP, but he was crazy.
He's 35 years old right now. So he's getting towards the end of his tenure in the NFL. Do I think he's going to go back to the Rams? No. I think the Rams are looking forward to the future a lot more than signing Von Miller to a 1 or 2 year contract and blowing all that money on that. I mean, they have so much young talent. They don't really need it, especially on the defensive side. A couple more pieces and they'll be set. Do I think he keeps playing? Absolutely. I think he's got 1 or 2 more years where a team will sign him to a decent contract. And am I saying he's going to go win a Super Bowl with this team? Maybe not, but you're trying to tell me Jerry Jones won't come and pick up Von Miller?
No, Jerry Jones would be the guy to do it.
But they don't have the room for it, obviously. They don't have the space.
They would, though, somehow. I don't know how.
You get my point, though. There's going to be an owner out there that looks at this opportunity and be like, oh, it's Von Miller. What am I going to do? Let him just retire? Probably should, but no, I think he's had a successful time over the last 15 years, and I guess the one thing to say is we'll see.
We'll see, but another talk that a lot of people are talking about is the Broncos could be a team to go pick him up again.
That would be that would be another defense like the Chargers that I would be scared of come next year.
They picked up Hufanga from the Niners. They picked up Dre Greenlaw from the 49ers. Mm-hmm. They got those 2 guys in free agency. Already had a top 5 defense. Had Patrick Surtain the defensive player of the year. Bring back Von Miller. That defense is so scary, and Bo Nix he'll be in his 2nd year. That team could also be scary. AFC West, I'd say Chiefs be on the lookout because you've got the Raiders. Obviously, are probably not going to do too great.
They got Tom
Geno
Brady.
Smith.
They got Tom Brady owning their franchise now. So what I was going to say about the Harbaugh thing is the more time you give people like that, is the smarter decisions they'll make. So all these teams in those conferences, they're going to have some competition here in the next 5 years.
Yeah, but Harbaugh, he's a great head coach. The Chargers are going to be great. They've got Sean Payton in Denver. Got some great coaches. They got some great teams. I definitely could see the AFC West being that NFC West that we saw just a few years ago where every team was making the playoffs. That could be
it's not crazy.
That division. It's not crazy. And going into Geno Smith, we're talking about the Raiders. Geno Smith is now a Las Vegas Raider. He's going to be rejoining his old head coach, Pete Carroll, who coached for the Seahawks. He coached for USC. And now people were talking about the rivalry is back. It's Harbaugh and Carroll. They're back in the exact same division. But Las Vegas, they only gave up a 2025 third-round pick for him. And I want to ask, do you this feels like such an underpay for Geno Smith? I know that we talked about before the show that, he shouldn't be paid a lot of money, but only a third-round pick for this guy. He's above average quarterback. I feel like there should be more. It felt like a little bit more of like a bag of chips type of trade that we saw with Deebo Samuel a few weeks ago.
Yeah, this one's really interesting because Geno Smith in the last couple years has really come out as someone that people can consider a starter. But I look at it, and he's just a career backup, in my opinion. He's spent so much time behind the line. He's never proven himself in a special situation other than his first year in Seattle when he earned the starting spot. And, yeah, he's going back with Pete Carroll, but I just don't see the rest of the talent on the Raiders stepping up to his level. I mean, obviously they have Max Crosby, one of the best defensive ends in the league, and then we have Brock Bowers going into his 2nd year. And he's amazing to watch, by the way. I totally agree with you. But is that going to be enough to help Geno Smith? I don't necessarily think so.
It's tough because Geno Smith is one of those guys that I do agree with you. He's more of an average guy. He's an average quarterback. Yep. He gets it in the system. Will the Raiders be better than the Seahawks system that they had? No, I don't think that the weapons are as good. But do I think the Raiders will be better than they were last year? 100%.
Yeah.
With Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, Brock Bowers. They've got some talent on that team. And bringing back, they've got Max Crosby back. So I do think that the Raiders will be better. Do I think they're going to be a playoff team? No. Do I think they can go 9-8? Yeah, I think they could definitely be a 9-8 contender.
Yeah, I just looked this up because I wanted to see how many games he genuinely played. He got drafted in 2013, Geno Smith. He played 15 games between 2015 and 2021.
That's a crazy
That's less than a season. That's less than a season. That's less than a season. He was on 4 different teams. Wow, 4 different teams.
He was at the Jets at first.
He drafted by the Jets, went to the Giants, then the Chargers, and then landed in Seattle, and now he's at the Raiders. So he's proven himself at Seattle, but there's so many different questions when you move teams.
There is a lot of questions. It's tough when you move teams as a quarterback. We're going to talk about some more quarterback moves later in the show. But yeah, Geno Smith going to the Raiders. I like the pickup for the Raiders. I mean, this is better than what they had. Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, those aren't very great quarterbacks, and Geno Smith will be better. That's at least someone, I feel like it's a gap quarterback, right? It's the guy
100%.
who's going to sit there for 1 or 2 years, and they'll draft their guy, or they'll pick up somebody else.
Yep.
Or they'll trade for somebody else that's better.
Yep.
So that's definitely going to be the move that we'll see probably from the Raiders. Now, I'm going to go to the Texans because the Texans, another AFC team, they got a deal done with Christian Kirk. And Christian Kirk, he was a Jacksonville Jaguar, and he found a trade partner. So he's going to a division rival, which is a little bit weird of a trade. Of course, Jacksonville trading to the Texans is
Will he have
almost
a Saquon moment?
Yeah, full-on Saquon moment, right? Like the full-on Giants and the Eagles. But yeah, Christian Kirk, he's going to be a Texan. And the Texans, they were looking for a slot wide receiver. After Tank Dell, he went under a second knee surgery, which Tank Dell is such a great talent. I'm missing that he's not going to be able to play for a while. And they're letting veteran Stephon Diggs go. And obviously there's been no trades yet about him. We don't know where he's going to go, but he's leaving in free agency. He's going somewhere. So they needed to go somewhere else. And they went inside the division for Christian Kirk. What's your thought on this? They've got Stroud and, Christian Kirk. You've got Nico Collins. What are we thinking?
Stroud's a great quarterback, and I think he's going to be able to make it work with whoever is on the field if he has a decent offensive line. And so we'll see what they do with that. But I do want to say about this Christian Kirk trade is it's really interesting because he's similar to Tank Dell, but why would you pick up Christian Kirk if you have Tank Dell? Much younger player. He's played with C.J. Stroud for a while now. And so that makes me think that maybe this Tank Dell injury is worse than
we think, right?
We've been told so far.
And it's scary. It's so scary.
Yep, and same with Stephon Diggs. He's older, so it's like he just tore his ACL, older wide receiver. Like, does a team really want to take that risk on someone who might come back and only be 80% of what they were before? And Stephon Diggs is a great player. 80% would be better than most wide receivers that are on some rosters. But it's hard to say when there's so many different circumstances that can go on. And what I want to say is when you have Nico Collins on your team, any competent wide receiver that has had any sort of success anywhere should be able to complement him really well. And I think Christian Kirk will be a good answer to that.
He will be a good complement to Nico Collins. And I think you're right, though, on the Tank Dell thing, because it's so scary. I watched that play, and it felt like a career-ending injury. Like watching him get hurt. He got hurt against the Chiefs this last year, and it was sad. It was a really sad injury.
It was a really hard injury.
Player. It was really hard, and his knee, it probably, I'm pretty sure it got fractured in multiple places, like 3-4 different places.
Yeah.
So it was a really tough injury to watch and tough injury to see. So I'm hoping it's not too bad, but at the same time, you never know. We could see him coming back. We could see him not being there. But Christian Kirk, he'll be pretty good. Now I'm going to jump over Trey Hendrickson. It says that he might be leaving the Bengals. So Trey Hendrickson, this last year, he was an amazing player. And I'm going to read his quote. He said, "It's been an honor and privilege to represent Cincinnati over the last 4 years," said Hendrickson, the NFL sack leader. "I love this city and organization. I appreciate the privilege of now being allowed to explore my options." Trey Hendrickson this last year, he led the NFL with 35 sacks over the last 2 seasons and finished second this past season in the Defensive Player of the Year running. So what do we think about this? Trey Hendrickson, could he be going to a contender that actually has a chance? Because the Bengals this last year, their only struggle was defense, and this guy was almost Defensive Player of the Year this last year.
Yeah, there's this thing in the NFL where teams like to get rid of all-star defensive players and send them to teams that are on the edge of contending and allow them to contend. Yep. So I think this is a really interesting opportunity for Hendrickson to really make a mark in the NFL and make himself known even more than he already is. Because like when you think about defensive players, you're not necessarily going directly to Trey Hendrickson as the first name out of a bag. But I still think he has the opportunity to really go to a team that fits him well. And while the Bengals were great, they've had their ups and downs. And if this is another situation like Myles Garrett where he just wants to win, he could end up on a very, very successful team in this next year.
I think Trey Hendrickson, yeah, he definitely could land somewhere else. I'm trying to think of like some talented teams that could go for him. I think the Bills, I keep bringing it up because I think the Bills are one of those teams.
The Bills are on the edge.
They're always on the edge of being there. You know, Josh Allen, of course, is carrying that team on his back, and that defense needs some help. Trey Hendrickson could leave to that team. I think that could be a compliment, but I don't know if Cincinnati's going to want to trade him like in the AFC. I think they could look to the NFC side and try to get rid of him over there. I'm really happy though that the Bengals are willing to say, you know, hey, go ahead and explore your options. That's just almost mature of them, right?
Yep.
Instead of looking at a lot of other teams that are like, no, you can't leave. We're going to franchise tag you. It's nice that they're saying, you know what? You know, you've been here for the past 4 years. You've done so much for our team.
We've tried our best.
We've tried our best here, and it's been a tough few years. You know what? You brought us to the Super Bowl with Joe Burrow once. Let's just let you go, right? Yeah. Or like let you at least explore, right? Because maybe a team doesn't want to trade for him. Like maybe he doesn't find a person to go to and he stays with the Bengals. But I could see someone definitely going for him. Now I want to go to a team that's so good right now, and it's the Commanders. And I want to ask you, do you think that the Commanders this next year are going to be better than the Eagles in the NFC East?
This is an interesting one. So I am what's the word for it? A slight sports bettor when NFL football comes around.
I'm the same way.
Okay, so I'm not tossing a whole lot of money at this, but I like to put in my bets because I feel like I've got a decent knowledge on the game. The Commanders always give the Eagles fits in the regular season. Those games are some of the closest games you can watch every single year. Yeah, they're some of the most fun games to watch. Eagles, Commanders. I don't even enjoy either of the two teams, but I'll watch that game year in and year out because of the opportunity the Commanders have and the Eagles have to put on a show. So when it comes to that, this Commanders team is going to be very dangerous this next year. Who is it that they just signed?
I'll read through the notable moves. So they've got Laramie Tunsil, which is probably the biggest one.
Yep, that's the one I was thinking of.
Daniels.
Yep, that was the O lineman from.
Yeah, from is it the Texans still, or I don't actually remember exactly where he's from. Is he from?
Gosh,
no, we're gonna have to look it up now.
Moving
to the other ones. They traded for Deebo Samuel, of course. They signed Javon Kinlaw. They re-signed Bobby Wagner, Zach Ertz, and tight end John Bates. So both their tight ends are coming back. So this team, they're adding more talent. They've got Laramie Tunsil, of course, Deebo Samuel, Javon Kinlaw. Did we figure out where?
It was the Texans.
The Texans. Okay, so the Texans, Laramie Tunsil. So yeah, Jaden Daniels gonna have the protection he needs. Better than what they did before. Of course, we know about RG3. He didn't have the protection, and that's why he got injured so easily and so quickly, and his career ended so prematurely. But it's good to see they're trying to build something. I definitely think the Commanders could be a team to compete with the Eagles. And I don't know, maybe we could see a Commanders Super Bowl year. This is really a good team.
That's not crazy to say. And one thing there's two things I want to say, actually. First, I think signing Zach Ertz back is huge for the team.
Huge.
He's a great player. He meshed well with Jaden Daniels. And then on the terms of Jaden Daniels, I think getting Laramie Tunsil here is massive for him. I mean, I'm sure you've heard about how he practices with the VR headset, right?
Yes, he does.
At 1.5 speed or whatever it is.
Yep.
Like the guy just sees the game in slow motion. So when you get talented offensive lineman to protect you.
It's going to be even slower.
It's going to be even slower, exactly. He's going to have even more time to read the defense and make a move, run when he wants to. And people compared him to Lamar Jackson for a reason this last year. He's one of the most talented running quarterbacks we've seen in a long time. So,
dude, he's got Scary Terry,
Debo Samuel,
Curtis Samuel. It's gonna be insane. I can't even think about it. Like, my head is spinning because the Commanders are one of those teams. Like, I was rooting for them the whole way. I was like, please beat the Eagles,
100%.
go to the Super Bowl. I wanted it to be Commanders Bills, but it didn't.
I think America wanted it to be Commanders Bills,
but of course we got the Chiefs Eagles again
after the Rams got taken out.
Yeah, of course.
I wanted the Commanders for sure.
But yeah, Commanders, such a fun team to watch, and I'm hoping that they can continue it. I'm just hoping Jaden Daniels doesn't have that sophomore slump. A lot of people talk about that sophomore slump because of C.J. Stroud. He had that sophomore slump this last year, so I'm hoping he doesn't. I don't think he will because of how much talent that's added. We'll see what happens. Now, I'm going to go to my team. Okay, I'm going to go to them, and I'm just going to say it now. 49ers don't have a chance this next year.
Are you sure you want to do this section of the show? Are you sure you want to talk about it?
You know what? I
can just do it for you.
To be honest, I'll say it just to get it off my chest.
You got to get it off your chest.
Got to get it off my chest. So the 49ers, there's been a lot of departures. I've been crying these past few days. I'll just tell you that. Yesterday specifically, we traded away Debo Samuel, of course, to the Commanders. Talking about that, we cut Kyle Juszczyk. We cut Juice. We cut Leonard Floyd.
That one surprised me the most.
Hargrave.
Was the Juszczyk?
Juszczyk, I don't get it. Malik Collins. We left in free agency. Dre Greenlaw, Javarius Ward, Hufanga, Aaron Banks, Jalen Moore, Elijah Mitchell, Josh Dobbs. I'm sitting here, and I'm just depressed. Because it's so many moves, so many people are missing. Juice is one of the biggest ones that when I saw that news, I thought it was fake. I thought it was a fake House of Highlights account that was making me even more sad. And then, of course, I look it up, and Adam Schefter's posting
it was Schefter's post. Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. I thought it was like an NFL rumors thing, and then I saw Schefter posted it.
Yeah, Schefty posted it, and it's just 49ers. I don't know. Speaking about it, like, I texted my brother. My brother and I are huge Niners fans together, and he texted me. He's like, he keeps texting me every player that keeps leaving, and I'm just sitting there, just sad every single time I see it. But he said the same thing. He's like, speaking about the Niners, we'll make it to the NFC Championship somehow and lose. Like,
yeah, that's not even crazy to say.
It's not crazy either. It's just somehow we're gonna make it there for no reason at all with a worse team, and we're gonna lose somehow to, in my opinion, like the Commanders in the NFC Championship, or as we talked about, the Rams maybe.
Yeah, and this is something that everyone saw coming, right, with the Niners. It was no surprise once we needed the contract to be put onto Brock Purdy. There was going to be stuff that had to happen. But I think the most interesting thing is, you're going to know this as well, is they're getting rid of players that have been on the team for so long. Charvarius Ward, Elijah Mitchell, Kyle Juszczyk, Debo Samuel. I mean, these are guys that are staples of this Niners team.
Forever.
They're staples. So it's really interesting to see how the culture is going to change this next year. And the NFC West was probably the most entertaining division at the end of this last year. And I'm going to be really interested to see how that translates to this year, because there's a lot of teams blowing it up in that division. The Seahawks, the Niners. We'll see what the Arizona Cardinals do. I mean, they're sitting good right now.
They are sitting pretty chill.
They're sitting pretty chill.
We'll talk about the Seahawks because we're going to talk about Sam Darnold, because that news happened, that huge trade. But before going to that, the 49ers, are the 49ers now in the dirt? And I do think they kind of are.
That is what it says here. Are the 49ers now in the dirt?
Are the 49ers now in the dirt? But it's been some tough time. It's just been a tough time as a Niners fan. For any Niners fans out there, I feel for you. I've been feeling it myself. Been playing all my sad music, of course.
I got to ask, what do you think about the Debo trade? Fifth round.
Now, the Debo trade, of course, right away when that happened, I think I talked about it this last week's show, but Debo Samuel was traded for a bag of chips. That's basically what we got back. Yep. It was like signing a contract for nothing, or signing that trade for nothing. Debo Samuel, I wish he stayed, but at the same time, he wasn't good this last year. He dropped so many passes, and he made that whole tweet. Yes. Did you say Droppo Samuel?
Droppo Samuel.
I like that nickname, actually. You know what? I'm going to use it when he's on the Commanders now.
Yeah.
But no, Debo, I don't get it. Maybe it's the number change. That's what everyone was talking about, switching from 19 to 1. 19 problems. He turned into just one problem, and it was his own problem. He became his own problem. Not very good this last year. So I was expecting that. I just wasn't expecting the rest. The whole cut and the left in free agency, all that list. Dre Greenlaw was a big one for me because I miss him so much.
That's someone I somehow missed on this list of staples of the team.
Yeah, and then Hufanga as well. I loved Hufanga and seeing them. They both now are on the Broncos, which is crazy.
That's going to be crazy.
That division, again, is just going to be insane.
That division this year is going to be so entertaining.
So entertaining
It's going to be so entertaining.
I think it's going to be the same kind of hype we had when Russell Wilson. Remember when he was traded right away, and we were talking about how hyped it was going to be?
And Bo Nix, I didn't get to say this earlier, but Bo Nix is one of the best looking rookie quarterbacks I've
He's
seen
so
come out in a
underrated.
while. He's so underrated.
So underrated.
He, there's growing pains with young quarterbacks. It's how the league works these days. Not everyone can step in and be that guy, but Bo Nix has done a great job learning how the NFL works, moving into it, making the smart plays, taking the risks when he needs to. So I'm very interested to see how that division goes this next year.
I'm excited. I'm very excited to see how it goes. Now, I'm going to move into one of the biggest trades that happened. Huge trade.
Huge.
DK Metcalf has been traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Steelers made a move for DK Metcalf. He is joining George Pickens. Both of them, of course, are pretty much the two most physical wide receivers, I would say, in the league. Some of the most physical. And DK Metcalf, he's joining them. He's signed a 5-year, $150 million contract extension with the Steelers upon joining them. The extension will include 4 new years and $132 million in new money that runs all the way through the 2029 season. And Metcalf, he had 1 year and only $18 million remaining on his previous contract with the Seahawks, so it makes sense that he's gone. But this is insane. DK Metcalf to the Steelers. We're still thinking about all the quarterback stuff. Justin Fields was traded. We'll talk about that. But Russell Wilson's still there. Russell Wilson played a pretty good role in this team, got them going. DK Metcalf, what's your thoughts on this, Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, he's a fast guy and he's running into the money quick, that's for sure.
Yes, he is.
No, this is going to be really interesting to see because you might agree with me here, but wide receivers that go to the Steelers, like there's just got to be something in the water in Pittsburgh because they turn into menaces, okay?
They do.
They turn into absolute machines. I mean, think about Antonio Brown, George Pickens. What's his name? Why can't I think of it?
I think it's Antonio Holmes, maybe? Is that
There's
what it was
just
about?
all of them. They just all turn into menaces, okay? And so this duo, it's going to look like Devontae Smith and Puka almost, with Metcalf being this X factor wide receiver that you cannot for the life of you ignore. But the second you ignore him, you have a much a very talented in the hands part. A wide receiver threatening you in the middle of the field. So the Steelers got a shot. Russell Wilson played on and off this year. I think he's going to look better, being able to start the full year and do more stuff in the preseason in terms of reps and stuff. He had the injury he was dealing with last year. Yeah, this Steelers team is going to be interesting. And Tomlin knows how to put on a good coaching performance. So,
of course.
Yeah.
He's been able to go over 500 for was it?
I don't think he's ever gone under 500.
I don't think he has. But yeah, Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, those two guys are insane, of course. And looking at this team too, DK, George Pickens, if they keep Russell Wilson, this team could be another contender. It seems like every team is adding some decent talent, and then there's just a few teams that just have nothing left, like the Niners, of course.
Yeah, and then something I think we're getting to later, if I'm not mistaken, is the Najee Harris signing on the Chargers.
Yes, Najee Harris. So Najee Harris, he has left from the Steelers, but he is going to go to the Chargers. So you brought it up, so I want to hear your thoughts on this. Obviously, we saw Gus Edwards. He is released from the Chargers. So what's your thought on this? Do you think the Chargers are going to be able to do something with Najee, though?
You know what? I think Najee is a great running back that has unfortunately slowed down over the last couple years. I think he has had his time where there was so much hype around him and so much talk about Najee Harris. Oh, Najee, I got to get him in my fantasy draft. The Steelers are going to be able to ground and pound like they like to in the winter, and it's going to be awesome. And it just never really materialized. And then they had Jalen Warren come in, and they were immediately willing to give him reps. And so he kind of lost his swagger in Pittsburgh, I guess. But we'll see if he's able to fix it under Harbaugh. They love to run the ball in LA.
They do, and I think with him, of course, they've got J.K. Dobbins right now as well. Like, he got injured a little bit, but I'm pretty sure he'll be back by the beginning of the season. Mm-hmm. So if they have both of them, Gus Edwards was kind of that big back, right? Not to make fun of him, but he was a bigger back,
he was a stronger guy.
So if you bring in a guy who, in my opinion, is stronger and bigger, Najee Harris, such a big guy, and he just trucks everybody, stiff arms you see all the time. He'll be one of those guys, you get down close to the end zone, he's going to be one of those guys that you put a half touchdown over on the betting 100%. A little bit. If he gets down at the 1 yard line.
Unfortunately, I think J.K. Dobbins is a bit too risky at this point. for them to put all their eggs in that basket.
Yep.
So I think this is going to work out for them, to be honest.
And it'll help split the reps. I think it'll definitely help split the reps.
I mean, if you have a running back playing 90% of the snaps like some of these bell cow running backs do, like their chance for injury is so much higher than the teams that are platooning them playing.
Tell me about it.
Back.
I'm a Niners fan.
Yeah, I know.
We have 5 running backs who we went through because we do that. We put 90% of the workload on.
And that's not even new for Christian McCaffrey. He was doing that anyways, but once you do it for so long, it adds up, and we've seen that as a prime example with the Niners.
I don't understand why we do that. But I'm
you
excited.
Sound like you're going through it over here, Carter. You're going through it over here, Carter.
I'm going through it as a Niners fan. But, it's just the way it goes. I feel like the Niners are one of those teams that bounces back. But
they do.
Going back to the whole Chargers thing, I think they'll be able to really be able to split those reps. Now, we were talking about Seattle. I want to talk about Sam Darnold because I want to hear your thoughts on it. Because as my parents are huge Vikings fans. They talk about the Vikings all the time. And it says, they signed him. So Seattle has signed Sam Darnold. They reached an agreement to a 3-year, $110.5 million contract, which includes $55 million guaranteed with the Seattle Seahawks. So
sick.
It's their successor, of course, a successor to Geno Smith. So Sam Darnold. I want to know because, in my opinion, Sam Darnold's one of those guys that this contract's okay. $110 million is probably around what you'd pay for this guy for this many years. But at the same time, Seattle has nobody left. They've got no DK. They released Tyler Lockett. It's just JSN left. Does Seattle have anything left with Sam Darnold?
Man. Because the Vikings this year had a team that somehow fit Sam Darnold so well, right, with Justin Jefferson. Sam Darnold was able to sit in the pocket and release the ball when he needed to, not when he wanted to. So it's going to be really interesting. And, I mean, it's great for Sam Darnold, and I'm sure me and you are both happy about this, but $110 million is crazy for Sam Darnold at this point in his career. It's a lot of money. And so I'm interested to see what they do in the draft this year, especially with how many teams are in the top 5 picks that are willing to trade back.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if we saw just a full-on rebuild from Seattle.
I could see a rebuild. It's just I think they're going to try for one more year, right? Because they just signed him. Like this year, they've got to at least try for 1 year.
I mean, they're going to try, but like if you watch the playoff game of the Vikings against the Rams, it's like, is this who we really want to have us leading into the playoffs?
That is the big question.
I was at the
Vikings. You win.
I was at. It was in Arizona.
So awesome.
Luckily, it was in Arizona when they switched it terribly because of the fires. I hope everyone's okay from that.
Course.
But like. He choked under the pressure, and yeah, they had fun this year. The Vikings had fun this year. They had fun this year. That's what they were doing. They were having fun with Sam Darnold. I just don't know if I can necessarily see the same thing happening in Seattle.
I don't think the same thing will happen. As my parents are huge Vikings fans, I'd say that I'm a secondary Vikings fan because of my family.
There you go.
But yeah, I was hoping that Darnold would come back. Really, I was hoping for one more year as a franchise tag, J.J. McCarthy, sit behind. And now there's news about Aaron Rodgers coming to the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, that's just another conversation. But I told you before the show, I was out snowboarding yesterday, and I was out with my buddy that's a Vikings fan. And we were on the lift when we got the news that Sam Darnold was going to Seattle. And we had talked about it yesterday morning, like before it happened. And I was like, dude, he's going to Seattle. Like, they traded Geno. He's going to Seattle. Like, it's locked in. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going there. Like, it's going to be Sam Darnold. And he was like, dude, no. Like, I want to keep him, like, just one more year. I don't want J.J. McCarthy yet. Like, just one more year. And we're sitting on the lift, and he just, like, starts breaking down, pissed off on the lift. It was really funny.
I was the same. To be honest, I was the same way when I saw the news happen because I really wanted a franchise tag to happen. But it's just how it is. I can't deny that he's getting the bag, right? Because I don't think the Vikings wanted to pay him that money. No team wants to pay Sam Darnold $110 million.
No, that's sickening.
It is sickening to see. Now I'm gonna skip over the last little piece of news we had in the NFL.
The Jets.
We're gonna skip over the Jets. I'm sorry. We're gonna go to the NBA. We're gonna jump to the NBA. We talked about the NFL now for about 40 minutes. All that free agency news is so much massive news. Right?
I had a blast. You have no idea.
It's so fun to talk about. Now going to the NBA, I want to talk about Nikola Jokic. Okay, Nikola Jokic. He had a game where he had 31 points, 21 rebounds, and a career-high 22 assists as the Denver Nuggets outlasted the Phoenix Suns 149-141 in overtime Friday night. I just reading those stats, I just cannot believe it. He's become the first NBA player with a triple-double of at least 30 points, 20 rebounds, and 20 assists. He tied his team record with his 29th triple-double of the season, stretching his career total to 149. It was also the 7th time this season that Jokic had at least 15 points, 15 rebounds, and 15 assists in a game. How is this guy not the MVP?
Well, I'm one of my best friends for life is a Thunder fan, and I think he would have a much better argument for you as why this guy isn't MVP yet. I will say I think like the direct problem with this game, and it's not a problem for Jokic, it's not a problem for the NBA, but the direct problem that Shea has with this game is Jokic is now on watch heavily. And so you put up 30, 20, 20, like all eyes on you for the next couple games. Go prove yourself and you get that title, in my opinion at least. So while Shea, I think, has been a very important piece of the Thunder, Jokic is one of the best centers we've ever seen, and he's proven it time in and time again. And so I think it's hard for any judge in that to really discredit anything Jokic has done this year and really set their mind on someone like Shea, because the way that Jokic can impact the game is the same as Shea, but he just doesn't necessarily need to bring the ball up every time.
Yeah, but the thing is for me is if Jokic is not on Denver, Denver's not in the 2nd seed position. Not at all.
Probably not.
Not a chance. And in my opinion, Shea's not on OKC. They're the 3rd seed or the 2nd seed.
Oh, 100%. Their team is so stacked. Their team is phenomenal. And even the other night, I'll look it up here in a second at who was out, and they still won the game. I think Aaron Wiggins had 40 points or something like that, and they still won. And we're talking about Aaron Wiggins. Like they rested 4 people. They rested Chet. They rested Shea. They rested all these guys.
And they still won.
And I don't remember exactly who it was against. I don't watch all the Thunder games. But it wasn't like it was a respectable opponent. And so it's really hard to say that, like, Jokic could be the most valuable player. And obviously how you take that term is very important when you talk about that.
It is.
And what you think the most valuable means. But Shea has just been consistent this whole year.
But the whole thing, I get that Shea's been consistent, but the thing for me is most valuable player is of course most valuable to your team. Right, that's at least how I look at it, right? Because you're the most valuable player to your team. In my opinion, Shea, I could be looked at like as a hater, and my roommates call me haters of Shea. But I don't like him, man. I just feel like he's got the free throw thing for me, and it's just not the same.
I was talking about this morning actually. Someone sent me a picture in a group chat with a couple of my buddies, and we were talking about free throw merchants in the NBA. And if we look at this list,
Embiid number 1.
Well, if Embiid ever plays again,
if he ever plays.
The list for top 10 free throws made, it goes Karl Malone, LeBron James, Moses Malone, Kobe Bryant, James Harden, Oscar Robertson, Michael Jordan, Kevin Durant, Shea, and then Jerry West.
But real quick, Shea's already up there.
Yeah, but that's the point. We're looking at a list of elite basketball players, and Shea's already on it.
Yeah, he's already up there.
Yeah.
But still, it's like, okay, Shea.
And I understand your point. He's only been in the league for like half as amount of time as like Kobe was.
Yeah, of course.
But people were calling Kobe a free throw merchant back in the day. Like Kobe's entire play style was let's get to the free throw line, let's make shots from the charity stripe, and let's move the game forward.
I'll make it clear. Shea is still an amazing talent. He's still a phenomenal player. I'm not stating that he's bad. I think he's definitely in the MVP conversation. I just think that Jokic is more valuable to his
That's not
team.
crazy to say.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Now, let's listen to actually a clip from last night. I think it was last night or 2 days ago, actually. So 2 days ago of Shea, he was actually talking about the MVP conversation. So let's listen to this real quick.
Can I say one thing? Yes, you can, Chet.
MVP. 3 letters. MVP.
Well, speaking of that, obviously you and Nikola Jokic are the front runners to win MVP. What's your mindset coming into a game where you know there's going to be direct comparisons of 2 great players?
Get a win. That's what it's all about for me. I love MVPs. I love All-Stars. I love all the accolades that comes with it, but none of it matters if you don't win, and that's where I hang my hat, and I'll be pleased with the outcome tonight because we won.
So I do see the humbleness of him, right? Because he is very humble in this whole thing. Like, he cares more about the win. which is very humble of him. So I think that race is going to be really exciting.
It's going to be a
down
good
the
one.
stretch.
It's going to be a great
It's going
one.
to be a close one. Jokic, if he doesn't win it, of course, everyone will talk about him being robbed again, of course, because the whole Joel Embiid.
Well, either way,
portion.
someone will be robbed.
Either way. Can we get a co-MVP? Maybe I'm okay with that.
No, it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
I know. Now, let's go into another piece of basketball news. Let's go to LeBron. He is out for the next few weeks. He's sidelined for 1 or 2 weeks with a groin strain, suffering in Saturday night's marquee matchup between the Los Angeles Lakers and Boston Celtics. He'll be reevaluated after the injury relaxes for 24 hours. And so, yeah, he'll be out for a few weeks. You know, you're pretty happy. You know about the whole Luka Doncic. He's there. They've got the talent there. So do you think this really has much effect? I don't really think it does.
No, I think we really covered this in last year's draft when we took Bronny James, because now we can have the James DNA on the floor no matter what.
You know what? You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
No, the jokes aside, it'll be fine. Like a couple weeks, we got postseason coming up soon anyway. So I'd rather him be healthy going into that regardless. And we're already sitting at the top of the West. Not the tippy top, but we're sitting pretty
up there.
We're sitting up there. We're sitting up there comfortably right now in the West. And obviously there's a ton of competition, but you know, if you watch the Lakers games, it's not like LeBron and Luka are necessarily on the court together most of the time anyways and like need each other to play good, and we already know this.
To be honest, it's a good thing because you can have one of those guys on the floor
exactly
all the time.
Yep.
And so even when you have, you know, LeBron's going to be out for a few weeks,
you can still
you're
have
not
Luka
nervous.
play.
You're not nervous about it.
You up Luka's minutes. That's
of
all
course.
you do.
You up his minutes. And Luka, you know, he's been playing really good for the Lakers, and it's crazy to me that, you know, people aren't talking about this team as a championship contender as much as they should be.
Well, it's hard when you don't have a center, like especially when you have to go against teams like the Nuggets.
No,
you're
You're not wrong in that stance.
So if the Nuggets and the Lakers play in the playoffs,
Again,
that's going to be a very, 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 very tough matchup for the Lakers to win, just simply because they're starting Hayes down low. And so it's going to be interesting to see. But like you said, when you have two facilitators like that who want the ball every possession, it's kind of good to be able to rest them when the other one's on the court. And so I think in the long run, this will end up being okay. And come playoffs, this should be fine. But obviously injuries suck, and especially when you get older, they get scarier and scarier. So we'll see how they manage this, and I'm sure they're going to be extra cautious going into the postseason.
I think LeBron will be fine. I mean, he had the groin injury that was earlier at the All-Star game too. He had that like groin pain issues, so that's why he didn't play. And so the same thing, you know, he's out for right now. But as you said, you know, the roster is built, and what's really nice about what the Lakers have been able to do is you've been able to build for the future through this trade. This has been a huge trade for the future. And we'll talk about Anthony Davis in just a second. But, you know, trading away Anthony Davis, who I believe 32 years old, you know, a little bit older, and trading him away, of course, he is your center player that was there before, but trading him for somebody who's younger, brought their team to the finals, you know, just a year ago, it's just better.
Let's just talk about this real quick. So
go for it.
Nico Harrison, I am close friends with like a ex-diehard Mavs fan. He's now a Lakers fan, and I'll get there in a second.
So he's a Luka fan.
Yeah, he's a Luka fan. So he started watching basketball and really fell in love with Luka and the Mavs. I mean, he's from Texas, so that it wasn't like he was bandwagoning Luka originally.
Of course.
Fell in love with it, watched like every single game, and it just sucks to see someone like Nico Harrison come in and just blatantly say, I'm only going to be here for a couple of years. I don't care about the future.
That's crazy to me that someone you can even say
as
that
as a fan, it's so
demoralizing.
It's demoralizing. It's disrespectful to the fan base. It's disrespectful to the program. It's disrespectful to the NBA as a whole almost, because the NBA is built around trying to be the best all the time.
Yes, it is.
Right? So it really sucks how the perspective ruined that. But on the other hand, I'm a Lakers fan, and so I want to say thank you to Nico Harrison.
Yeah.
I want to extend my personal thank you and gratitude to Nico.
Get the chance going at the stadium. Thank you, Nico.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's going to be crazy to see the Lakers. I think they do have a chance. Well, Matthew, this is actually the end of our show here today.
What a conversation.
It's been a great conversation for about 50 minutes, actually. So a long conversation. Matthew, it's always fun to have you here.
Absolute
and
pleasure,
I appreciate
Carter.
you being on the show here today on Saddleback College Radio, 88.5 HD2. And next, we have the Jeffing Jeffrey Show from 5 to 7 p.m. Sorry, I almost thought that I got that wrong. But 5 to 7 p.m., make sure to check in here again on Saddleback College Radio every single week on Tuesdays from 4 to 5 p.m. We have Catching Up with Carter with different guests, of course. Again, I want to say one last thank you. Thank you so much, Matthew, for being on the show.
Thank you very much. You mind if I do the sign out real quick?
Yes, go ahead.
Shout out Carter. This fantastic show. Make sure you tune in every Tuesday, Thursday, right?
Every Tuesday. Just
Tuesday. Is it just Tuesdays?
Tuesday at
Gotcha.
4 to 5 p.m.
I saw a clip on Thursday. I thought you were doing it live.
No,
That's on me.
No. It's all good.
Tune in to Catching Up with Carter every Tuesday, 4 to 5 p.m. This man's amazing. He does so much hard work behind the scenes to put into the show, and it really shows. He's done a fantastic job with the show. And like he said, make sure you tune into the Jeffing Jeffrey Show right now. But for now, I'm Matthew Pearce. This was Carter. You're listening to 88.5 KSBR HD2 on Saddleback Radio. And have a good rest of your day.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.